Hello and welcome to today's session. In today's session, I will discuss about counseling. In social casework perspective, counseling is very important technique to provide treatment to our client. So it's a treatment technique basically. And today I will also discuss about its importance, why counseling is important, and as a social worker we should know the importance of counseling. So let's begin the session. Counseling is an interventional technique in social casework practice. Counseling is a helping process directed towards the solution of a problem which a person finds that he cannot solve himself. It is a psychological help in which information and clarification are used for making the client aware about the problem by which client can take their own decision. It is always used for some particular purpose like marriage counseling, disease related counseling, occupational counseling, family counseling, school counseling, etc. So counseling is a very important technique from the perspective of social casework. As a caseworker, as a social worker, we should know what counseling is. Definition of counseling. There are various definitions available for counseling. So the best definition I have taken from the American Counseling Association. They defined counseling is a professional relationship that empowers diverse individuals, families, and groups to accomplish mental health, wellness, education, and career goals. Now, importance of counseling from social casework perspective. So, why counseling is important? So, in below, I have given some areas where counseling is identified as a important component of social casework, important technique of social casework. So, number one, identification of a problem. Counseling is important to identify a client's problem because in counseling session, client will express his or her sufferings in front of the client. So, with the technique of counseling, you can be able to identify a client's problem. Then, etiology of a problem. Counseling session helps a worker to know the cause and extent of a problem. This plays an important role to find out the actual cause. For example, a client is very sad and cannot discuss anything to others, and in that case, counseling can give light to that problem. By applying this technique, the social worker can be able to know the root cause of client's sadness. The client was sad because of his sudden loss of money, and he is now not in a position to deal with other tasks because of that loss. So, counseling will also help you to know the causes of it. So, first, you will be able to identify the problem, then, you are able to know the causes of a problem. Then, diagnosis. Counseling also helps to diagnose a case. For example, A client is very sad and do not have any interest. Here, the social caseworker able to diagnose the case from their theoretical perspective of knowledge. This sign and symptom indicate that patient is now in a stage of depression. The social worker also know what will happen or what the client will do in this stage through counseling sessions created for him. Here the social worker be able to make certain strategies for his or her client. So counseling will help you to diagnose a case because when you will sit, when you will talk, when you will discuss, client will express his or her own feeling, and you will be able to know what type of feeling it is because you have your own theoretical background. So counseling will help you to diagnose a case. Treatment planning. Social casework counseling is also important and helps for intervention or treatment planning. Through counseling, a caseworker be able to know the exact cause of the problem and when and where to give adequate treatment for clients' better performance or development. Suppose a child is diagnosed to have behavior problem and through dealing counseling, the social caseworker knows the root cause started from the parental side. Accordingly, social worker deals with the parents with certain intervention for better family adjustment and removal of such problems to that child. So, counseling also helps you to provide treatment and to plan for treatment. So, this is also very important areas. Then, history of the client. Counseling is also important because through counseling, the worker be able to know the history of the client. This is only possible because of proper interpersonal relationship with the client. The counselor's first objective is to build professional relation with the client to know the exact history and nature of the problem and also to know the associated problems of the client. So counseling will help you to know the history of the client because you will deal with the client in face to face conversation and client will have trust on you and client will share his or her own history life history to you. Hmm. Setting limits. Counseling is important because it set the limit of the client. The concept of acceptance does not imply that every kind of behavior has to be accepted or condoned. For example, Zero, which ages 15 years, was a client of a school social service department, referred for her use of abusive language. After a period of time, a good relationship was established between her and the social worker through counseling, and the social worker was able to exert some influence on the girl's behavior. Limit was set on the choice of words. Socially unacceptable words like beach and bastard were replaced by milder words like foolish and silly. So with counseling, you can set the limit. You can change the behavior aspects. So here, this example was very tricky, I can say, because that example shows that how girls' behavior has changed with counseling sessions. The girls used to use abusive language, but when relation rapport was built with the client, the worker transform these the abusive word into milder words. Okay, so you can set the limit to the client. Next is confrontation. Counseling is also important for confrontation of a client. Confrontation means bringing the client face to face with the lapses in his or her own behavior that have turned out to be harmful. The lapses in behavior referred to are those which are subsequent to his or her earlier commitment to a plan or decision in the presence of the social worker. Confrontation is applicable when a client contradicts himself or herself or retracts from commitment that he or she had undertaken during his or her discussion with the social worker. Example: Sachin, whose age is 11 years, was living in a slum and referred to the counselor by his teacher for his irregular attendance at school. Though through counseling session, the social worker able to understand that he was irregular because he was managing his father's shop. The social worker met with Sachin's father, and father said that Sachin does not know simple accounts. Then social worker confronted Sachin's father by saying that how can you expect Sachin to learn anything when he is at the shop most of the time and not in the school. Sachin's father remained silent, and worker told him to encourage his boy to go to school, by which he will be able to learn the arithmetic, and in future he will be able to help to run their show. So counseling also helps in confrontation. Renewing family links. In certain situations, counseling is important to renewing family links. Institutionalization in some cases means a disruption of family connections. Example: Lalita is a 15 years girl diagnosed to have tuberculosis and admitted to hospital. Her father was very pessimistic about the possibilities of her rehabilitation. He rejected her and stopped visiting her at hospital. Lalita was too depressed and explained that to social worker during counseling session. The counselor made visit to her house and discussed with her father that Lalita is still hoping to be cured, and as a child, if she does not lose hope, then how you can lose your hope about Lalita. Her father recognizes and frequently visits her at hospital. He maintained contacts with the social worker and was receptive to plans of rehabilitation. So counseling also helps in renewing family links. Improving communication patterns. Counseling is important for improving the communication patterns within families for better adjustment of the client in the family system. Then changing attitudes. Counseling is important for a client to change his or her behavior or the way of his or her thinking. Counselor helps the client to bring change in his or her behavior. So in that way, counseling helps. Counseling is important. So what are the areas that counseling is important? Identification of a problem, etiology of a problem, diagnosis, treatment planning,